Right. Perfect. So he starts here.
Yeah,
He
full
starts.
extension.
Okay. Right now.
Weight on his arm.
Again, to be clear, while we're being recorded, this will produce the most amount of force because he starts up in full extension. Now, the argument is he fully loaded here or is he fully loaded here?
Here, the very bottom, I would say, right?
I
Because
think here.
at the now when he's okay,
Now
so
watch, he'll sink a little bit, but his arms have already started to move.
back the other direction.
Yeah. So this is when the acceleration starts, even though, as you see the arms shift, even though he gets a little more hip and knee flexion, look, his dorsiflexion starts to decrease. You see that? It goes from 60 to 59, and the shoulders go from 54 to
Gotcha. He's already
52.
off the ground. He's already preparing to push. Yeah.
He's begun the push. Yeah.
Already
So, but
a little bit.
he's whipping himself.
Oh, I see. He's creating a
whipping.
spring with his legs, his femurs.
Yeah, he's whipping himself. As the arms begin to travel forward and the plantar flexion starts to take place as he pushes himself into the floor, he's finishing a bounce of his weight, just a little bit of momentum right there at the bottom. There's no end to phase one is the point. And this is one of the things that makes him special, probably. No. Whereas if we go back and we look at your other friend's jump or my client's jump, I bet they settle for milliseconds or hundreds of seconds. I bet there's an end of phase one of the force priming phase.
Yeah.
I bet there's an end where it comes to like a Titanic iceberg, dead ahead, full stop, reverse right rudder, you know, when the engines have to go and then go the other way. He doesn't do that. He goes right from...
I see what you're saying.
He goes right from maximal loading point. He begins the whip in the coil and the extremities participation in the movement. So he
whip and coil anything?
He has the coil and the bounce. He doesn't get stuck.
Yeah.
Phase one
phase is small.
The phase one and phase two meet perfectly and flow through each other. It's a movement chain flow, the way a perfect cross punch that disintegrates an opponent would be, whereas it gets to maximum protraction, rotation, and extension and squeezes for 1/100th of a second, it starts to whip back. A perfect whip. When you use a whip and you snap it behind you, or you go to cast to do fly casting, right? Your arm is on the way forward as the whip is still on the way back. And that's exactly what he's doing biologically. He's whipping himself.
So he's using his thorax, his center of gravity, as the end of the whip. And whenever he goes to coil it, his feet have already begun. Okay, so this is my question then. Would we divide the phases? So his force priming phase to his force transmission phase is divided. It looked not by the depth of the angle, but by the depth of not by the depth of his hip angle, but the depth of his hips, but the depth of his joint, his knee, his ankle angle.
And defined by the beginning of the movement of his shoulders and his ankle, starting the extremities to pull and push.
So his extremity joint angles.
Just like a whip, where the whip continues behind your head as the shoulder starts to flex right here, right? I've got the whip all the way back here. This happens while the whip is still on its way back. I start forward.
Wow. Got it. And that's where it becomes dispersion, is where you've already collected the force. Now it's time for you to actually utilize it. And that's where you see the extremities first begin their initiation of priming the musculature for that extension before it actually happens. So that's where you talked about the depth of the hip not actually being his full amortization phase or full priming phase. It was just the whip, the initial of the coil, the initiating phase of the whip. coil.
Exactly. And then, yeah, and that's similar to how the arm moves last for a pitcher.